The morning alarm at Forward Operating Base Sentinel cut through the Iraqi desert silence like a rusty blade. Most soldiers groaned and rolled over for 5 more minutes of precious sleep. But Sergeant Elena Vasquez was already awake, meticulously organizing ammunition crates in Supply Warehouse C with the same methodical precision she brought to everything else in her military career. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. While combat units prepared for another day of patrols and potential firefights, Elena counted rounds, checked inventory logs, and ensured every piece of equipment was exactly where it should be. Her fellow soldiers saw this as mundane work, the kind of assignment given to those who couldn't handle real military action. What they didn't know was that Elena could put 10 rounds through a quarter-sized target at 300 yards before most of them finished loading their magazines. The supply depot at Forward Operating Base Sentinel buzzed with the controlled chaos of military logistics. Forklifts weaved between towering stacks of ammunition boxes, medical supplies, and equipment containers, while diesel generators hummed their mechanical lullabies in the background. In the center of this organized mayhem, Sergeant Elena Vasquez moved with the fluid efficiency of someone who understood that every misplaced bullet could mean the difference between life and death for soldiers in the field. Elena had requested transfer to a combat unit 17 times in 3 years. Each request had been politely declined, with the same bureaucratic explanation. Her skills were too valuable in logistics to waste on frontline operations. The irony wasn't lost on her that the military considered her too good at organizing supplies to allow her to use the marksmanship skills that had earned her the highest scores in sniper training before her assignment to FOB Sentinel. Staff Sergeant Marcus Rivera emerged from behind a wall of MRE containers, his combat gear dusty from the previous day's patrol. He approached Elena's meticulously organized workspace with the casual swagger of someone accustomed to being treated as the base's unofficial hero. Rivera commanded Bravo Squad, an 8-man unit that had earned recognition for their aggressive patrol tactics and high enemy contact rates. "Morning, Stockroom," Rivera called out, using the nickname he'd coined for Elena during her first week at the base. "My boys need extra magazines for today's operation. Command thinks we might hit some serious resistance in Sector 7. Elena looked up from her inventory checklist, noting that Rivera's request wasn't accompanied by the proper requisition forms. She had learned early in her military career that attention to detail could prevent catastrophic failures. But she had also learned that pointing out procedural violations to combat veterans rarely improved working relationships. "How many additional magazines per soldier?" she asked, moving toward the ammunition storage area with practiced efficiency. "Standard load is 7 30-round magazines. Are you anticipating extended engagement?" Rivera laughed, the sound carrying more condescension than humor. "Listen, Stockroom, you worry about counting bullets and let us worry about using them. We know what we're doing out there." The comment stung more than Elena cared to admit. She had grown accustomed to being dismissed by soldiers who assumed that anyone assigned to supply duties lacked the courage or competence for combat operations. What frustrated her most was that she couldn't argue with their assumption without appearing defensive or arrogant. Elena retrieved the requested magazines with mechanical precision, each movement economical and purposeful. She had spent countless hours studying ballistics data, wind patterns, and environmental factors that affected long-range accuracy. Her personal weapon, an M24 sniper rifle that she maintained with obsessive care, was capable of engaging targets at distances that would challenge even experienced marksmen. "Here are your additional magazines," she said, handing Rivera a carefully organized bundle. 2 extra per soldier, plus 1 additional for your designated marksman. The ammunition is match grade, recently inspected, and stored at optimal temperature and humidity. Rivera accepted the magazines without examining Elena's meticulous preparation. To him, ammunition was ammunition. The subtle differences in powder charges, bullet weights, and environmental storage that Elena monitored religiously were invisible details that didn't matter in his world of close-quarters combat and aggressive maneuvering. Corporal Danny Chen approached the supply window as Rivera prepared to leave. Chen served as the unit's designated marksman, a role that required more precision than most infantry positions, but less specialization than dedicated sniper operations. He had observed Elena's weapon maintenance routines and noticed the advanced ballistics references she studied during off-duty hours. "Vasquez," Chen said quietly, I've been having trouble with my scope 0 at longer ranges. Wind keeps pushing my shots left beyond 200 yards. You got any suggestions? Elena felt a familiar surge of enthusiasm whenever someone showed genuine interest in marksmanship principles. Chen's question demonstrated that he understood the complexity of long-range shooting and respected her knowledge enough to ask for advice. Wind drift depends on bullet weight and velocity, she explained, pulling out a small notebook filled with ballistics calculations. Your standard M855 ammunition is light for its caliber. Crosswind pushes it more than heavier bullets. Also, are you accounting for the Coriolis effect at extended ranges? Rivera rolled his eyes audibly. Jesus, Chen, you want ballistics lessons, or do you want to get ready for today's patrol? We're not shooting at paper targets out there. Chen looked embarrassed for asking the question, but Elena noticed his genuine interest in improving his marksmanship. She made a mental note to discuss advanced shooting techniques with him privately, when Rivera wasn't around to mock the conversation. The supply depot's morning routine continued with its usual rhythm of organized urgency. Elena processed equipment requests, conducted inventory updates, and coordinated with transportation units that moved supplies between forward operating bases. Her work required constant attention to detail, mathematical precision, and the ability to anticipate needs before they became critical shortages. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison, the base's executive officer, stopped by Elena's workspace around mid-morning. Morrison had earned her commission through Officer Candidate School, after serving as an enlisted logistics specialist, which gave her a practical understanding of supply operations that many officers lacked. Vasquez, I need you to review our ammunition expenditure reports, Morrison said, handing Elena a thick folder of documentation. Command is asking questions about why we're going through so much rifle ammunition compared to other bases our size. Elena accepted the folder and immediately began scanning the data for patterns and anomalies. Her analytical mind automatically processed the numbers, looking for trends that might explain the unusual consumption rates. Ma'am, most of our ammunition usage comes from training exercises and patrol activities, Elena observed after several minutes of review. But we're also seeing higher expenditure rates because our patrols are engaging targets at longer ranges than doctrine typically recommends. Morrison leaned forward with interest. Elena's observations often revealed insights that escaped other personnel because of her unique combination of supply management experience and advanced marksmanship knowledge. What do you mean by longer ranges? Morrison asked. Standard infantry engagement doctrine assumes most firefights occur within 100 to 200 yards. Elena explained, pulling out charts that showed engagement distances reported by patrol units. But our patrols are regularly engaging targets at 300 to 400 yards, sometimes beyond. At those distances, soldiers need more rounds to achieve effective hits, especially with standard equipment and training. Morrison studied the data with the expression of someone recognizing an important problem for the first time. Elena's analysis revealed a gap between theoretical doctrine and practical reality that had significant implications for both ammunition consumption and tactical effectiveness. Do you have recommendations for addressing this issue? Morrison asked. Elena hesitated, knowing that her suggestions might be perceived as criticism of current training and tactics. She had learned to be cautious about offering opinions that could be interpreted as overstepping her role as a supply specialist. Improved marksmanship training would reduce ammunition consumption while increasing tactical effectiveness, she said carefully. Soldiers who understand ballistics, wind reading, and range estimation can achieve better results with fewer rounds. Morrison made notes in the folder margin. Elena's practical knowledge of both supply management and advanced shooting techniques gave her insights that pure logisticians or pure combat specialists might miss. The afternoon brought its usual collection of equipment requests, maintenance coordination, and administrative tasks. Elena processed each requirement with the same methodical attention to detail that had earned her recognition as one of the most efficient supply specialists in the theater of operations. Corporal Chen returned to the supply window just before the dinner hour, this time without Rivera's intimidating presence. He approached Elena with the careful demeanor of someone seeking genuine instruction rather than simply collecting equipment. I've been thinking about what you said regarding wind drift and bullet weight, Chen said quietly. Would you have time to help me understand the calculations? I want to be more effective at longer ranges. Elena felt the familiar excitement that came with sharing technical knowledge with someone who appreciated its importance. Chen's request demonstrated that not all combat soldiers dismissed her expertise as irrelevant theory. Wind reading is part science and part art, Elena explained, pulling out her personal notebook filled with detailed observations about local wind patterns and atmospheric conditions. The science involves understanding how air density affects bullet trajectory. The art involves reading environmental signs to predict wind speed and direction. She showed Chen charts that documented how different wind speeds affected bullet impact at various ranges. The data was meticulously organized with corrections for temperature, humidity, and elevation that most soldiers never considered. "This is incredible," Chen said, studying Elena's comprehensive ballistics reference. "Where did you learn all this? Sniper school, advanced marksmanship courses, and a lot of personal study," Elena replied. "I've been working on a comprehensive guide that combines theoretical ballistics with practical field observations." Chen looked surprised. "You went to sniper school?" Elena nodded, feeling the familiar mixture of pride and frustration that accompanied questions about her training background. "Graduated second in my class, but the Army needed supply specialists more than additional snipers, so here I am." The conversation was interrupted by Rivera's return from the evening patrol briefing. His expression darkened when he saw Chen studying Elena's ballistics notes instead of preparing his equipment for the next day's mission. "Chen, what the hell are you doing?" Rivera demanded. "We've got a complex operation tomorrow, and you're playing math tutor with Stockroom." Chen closed Elena's notebook reluctantly. "I was just trying to improve my long-range accuracy." "Your accuracy is fine," Rivera replied dismissively. "What you need to improve is your speed and aggression. We don't win firefights by calculating wind speed. We win them by putting more rounds downrange than the enemy." Elena watched the exchange with growing frustration. Rivera's philosophy represented everything she found problematic about current infantry tactics. Raw firepower and aggressive maneuvering had their place, but precision shooting could often accomplish missions with less ammunition expenditure and reduced risk to friendly forces. After Rivera and Chen left, Elena returned to her evening inventory duties. The supply depot grew quiet as most personnel headed to the dining facility or recreational areas. She used the peaceful hours to update her ballistics research and review equipment maintenance schedules. Her personal weapon stood in its designated storage rack, meticulously maintained and ready for immediate use if required. Elena had modified the rifle's trigger, upgraded its optics, and hand-loaded specialized ammunition that provided superior accuracy at extended ranges. The weapon represented everything she wished she could contribute to the base's tactical operations. Lieutenant Morrison approached Elena's workspace as she completed her evening reports. The executive officer carried herself with the confident bearing of someone who had earned respect through competence rather than inherited authority. "Vasquez, I've been thinking about your recommendations regarding marksmanship training," Morrison said. "Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Would you be interested in developing a program to improve our soldiers' long-range shooting capabilities?" Elena felt her heart rate increase with excitement and apprehension. The opportunity to share her expertise was everything she had hoped for. But she also understood the political challenges of a supply specialist, offering instruction to combat veterans. "I would be very interested in contributing to improved training, ma'am," Elena replied carefully. "But I'm not sure how the combat units would respond to marksmanship instruction from someone in a support role." Morrison smiled with understanding. "Let me worry about the politics. Your knowledge could save lives and improve mission effectiveness. That's more important than worrying about wounded egos." The conversation represented a potential turning point in Elena's military career. For years, she had felt trapped between her desire to contribute meaningfully to combat operations and the institutional barriers that relegated her to support functions. As the desert night settled over forward operating base Sentinel, Elena secured her workspace and prepared for another day of meticulous supply management. She had no way of knowing that within 48 hours, her precision shooting skills would be tested under the most demanding circumstances imaginable. The base's defensive perimeter was quiet, except for the routine sounds of generators, radio communications, and guard tower activities. Elena's quarters were located near the supply depot, allowing her to respond quickly to emergency equipment requests. Her personal gear was organized with the same methodical precision she brought to professional duties. Her M24 rifle occupied a place of honor in her personal equipment collection. The weapon was more than just a tool. It represented her commitment to excellence, and her belief that precision could triumph over quantity when applied with proper knowledge and dedication. Elena's training diary documented hundreds of hours spent perfecting her marksmanship skills. She had recorded environmental conditions, ammunition performance, and accuracy results with scientific precision. The data represented years of dedicated study and practice that most soldiers never invested in their shooting abilities. Her relationship with fellow personnel was complicated by their perception of her role and capabilities. Combat soldiers respected her efficiency and reliability in supply operations, but remained unaware of her advanced tactical training. Support personnel appreciated her technical competence but didn't fully understand her frustration with being underutilized. The contradiction between Elena's capabilities and her assigned duties created constant tension. She possessed skills that could significantly contribute to the base's tactical effectiveness, but institutional inertia and assumptions about supply personnel prevented her from demonstrating those capabilities. Staff Sergeant Rivera represented the attitude that frustrated Elena most. His dismissive treatment wasn't necessarily personal, but rather reflected broader assumptions about the relative value of different military specialties. Combat soldiers were warriors. Support personnel were clerks. The distinction seemed obvious and natural to people like Rivera. Corporal Chen's genuine interest in improving his marksmanship gave Elena hope that not all combat soldiers dismissed her expertise. His willingness to learn demonstrated that individual relationships could overcome institutional barriers when people focused on practical results rather than preconceived assumptions. Lieutenant Morrison's support for Elena's training proposal represented another potential breakthrough. Having an officer recognize the value of her specialized knowledge could open doors that had remained closed, despite Elena's repeated requests for transfer to combat operations. The base's ammunition consumption problem that Elena had identified revealed a larger issue about the gap between doctrine and reality. Theoretical training scenarios often failed to account for the complex environmental factors that affected real-world operations. Elena's unique perspective as both a supply specialist and advanced marksman allowed her to recognize patterns that pure specialists might miss. Her ballistics research represented years of dedicated study that went far beyond standard military training requirements. Elena had invested personal time and resources in developing expertise that could benefit the entire unit, but institutional barriers prevented her from sharing that knowledge effectively. The evening's conversation with Chen had given Elena a glimpse of what might be possible if soldiers were willing to look beyond traditional assumptions about roles and capabilities. His enthusiasm for learning demonstrated that technical knowledge could enhance rather than replace combat instincts when applied properly. As Elena completed her nightly equipment checks, she reflected on the strange contradiction of her military service. She had joined the army to serve her country and protect fellow soldiers, but found herself trapped in a role that prevented her from using her most valuable skills when they were needed most. Her precision shooting abilities represented thousands of rounds of practice ammunition, hundreds of hours of training, and countless pages of ballistic study. The investment had been motivated by her belief that excellence in fundamental military skills was both a professional obligation and a moral responsibility. The M24 rifle that stood ready in her quarters was more than just a personal weapon. It was a symbol of her commitment to mastery, her respect for the technical aspects of military service, and her frustration with being underutilized by an institution that claimed to value competence above all else. Forward Operating Base Sentinel settled into its nightly routine as Elena prepared for sleep. Guard towers maintained their vigilant watch, communications personnel monitored radio frequencies, and support staff prepared for another day of logistical challenges. Elena's dreams were filled with ballistics calculations, wind patterns, and the satisfying precision of perfectly placed shots. She had no way of knowing that her expertise would soon be tested under circumstances that would forever change how her fellow soldiers viewed both her capabilities and the value of technical knowledge in combat operations. The base's defensive preparations were thorough and professional, but they were designed to counter conventional threats using standard tactics and equipment. No one anticipated that the greatest challenge would require the specialized skills of someone officially designated as a supply clerk, but trained as a precision marksman. Elena's story was about to transform from a tale of unrecognized potential into a demonstration of how technical expertise and personal dedication could prove decisive when conventional approaches failed. The quiet professional who counted ammunition and maintained inventory logs was about to become the soldier whose precision shooting would end a 6-hour siege and save countless lives. Her journey from dismissed supply clerk to recognized expert would begin with a crisis that tested everyone's assumptions about roles, capabilities, and the true meaning of military service. The institutional barriers that had frustrated her for years were about to be shattered by circumstances that demanded excellence over bureaucracy and results over assumptions. The desert night held no hint of the challenges that awaited forward operating base Sentinel, but Elena Vasquez was ready. Her methodical preparation, advanced training, and unwavering commitment to precision had prepared her for a moment that would define not just her career, but her understanding of how individual excellence could overcome institutional limitations when lives were at stake. The attack began at dawn, with the distinctive whistle of incoming mortar rounds that sent every soldier at forward operating base Sentinel scrambling for cover. Elena had been conducting her morning inventory when the first explosions shattered the desert stillness, sending shockwaves through the supply depot that rattled ammunition crates and scattered paperwork across the concrete floor. The base's early warning systems had detected movement in the surrounding hills during the pre-dawn hours, but intelligence reports had suggested a small reconnaissance probe rather than a coordinated assault. The reality became devastatingly clear as additional mortar rounds impacted throughout the compound, followed by the sharp crack of rifle fire from multiple directions. Major Catherine Walsh's voice crackled over the base communication system with the controlled urgency of a commander facing an unexpected crisis. All personnel to defensive positions. We have multiple enemy contacts approaching from the north and east perimeters. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Elena secured her supply depot with practiced efficiency, ensuring that ammunition and sensitive equipment were protected before making her way to her assigned defensive position. Her M24 rifle felt reassuringly familiar in her hands as she moved through the base's interconnected defensive positions, noting the controlled chaos of soldiers responding to their first major coordinated attack. Staff Sergeant Rivera's voice echoed across the northern defensive line as he positioned his squad behind reinforced barriers. His aggressive confidence remained intact despite the surprise nature of the assault, but Elena could detect an underlying tension that suggested even Rivera understood this was unlike the patrol engagements his team typically encountered. The enemy had chosen their timing and positioning with tactical sophistication that spoke of careful reconnaissance and professional military planning. Multiple firing positions in the surrounding hills provided overlapping fields of fire that made movement across the base's open areas extremely dangerous. Corporal Chen had taken position behind a concrete barrier approximately 50 meters from Elena's assigned location. His designated marksman rifle was equipped with a variable power scope that gave him capability at intermediate ranges, but Elena could see him struggling to identify specific targets among the enemy positions scattered across the hillsides. The initial phase of the attack focused on suppressing the base's defensive positions with sustained automatic weapon fire while mortar rounds continued to impact throughout the compound. The enemy demonstrated remarkable fire discipline, engaging specific targets rather than wasting ammunition on random suppression. Elena's position provided an excellent view of the eastern approaches, where several enemy firing positions were clearly visible among the rocky outcroppings. Her M24 rifle was capable of engaging targets at distances that exceeded most soldiers' effective range, but her official role as supply personnel meant she was expected to provide supporting fire rather than take an active sniping role. Lieutenant Morrison appeared at Elena's position during a brief lull in the incoming fire, her expression grim as she assessed the tactical situation developing around the base perimeter. The executive officer's combat experience was primarily administrative, but her leadership skills were being tested under the most demanding circumstances possible. "Vasquez, what can you see from this position?" Morrison asked, crouching behind the concrete barrier that provided protection from the eastern firing positions. Intelligence reports suggested maybe 20 to 30 enemy fighters, but the volume of fire indicates significantly larger numbers. Elena studied the hillsides through her rifle scope, applying the target identification skills she had developed through years of advanced marksmanship training. Her ability to read terrain and identify concealed positions gave her insights that most soldiers couldn't match. "Ma'am, I count at least 15 distinct firing positions on the eastern ridge alone," Elena reported, her voice calm despite the intensity of the situation. Based on the rate of fire and muzzle flash patterns, I estimate 40 to 50 fighters with professional military training and quality equipment. Morrison's expression darkened as she processed Elena's assessment. The base's defensive plans have been designed to counter smaller raids rather than coordinated assaults by numerically superior forces with advanced tactical capabilities. The communication system crackled with reports from defensive positions around the perimeter as the scope of the attack became clear. Multiple enemy positions had been established during the pre-dawn hours, creating a coordinated siege designed to isolate the base and prevent reinforcement or resupply. Major Walsh's voice carried the strain of a commander facing a situation that exceeded standard defensive protocols. All positions report ammunition status and casualty reports. Air support has been requested, but weather conditions are preventing immediate response. Elena had noticed the gathering storm clouds that reduced visibility and created atmospheric conditions unsuitable for close air support operations. The enemy had timed their attack to exploit environmental factors that would limit the base's ability to call for external assistance. The sustained firefight revealed the limitations of the base's defensive preparations. Soldiers trained for patrol operations and convoy security found themselves engaged in stationary defensive combat that required different skills and tactics. The enemy's professional coordination suggested extensive planning and reconnaissance. Rivera's squad maintained their aggressive response to the attack, returning heavy volumes of suppressive fire toward the enemy positions. Their approach was tactically sound, but resulted in rapid ammunition consumption without achieving significant tactical results against well-concealed opponents. Elena watched through her scope as enemy fighters moved between positions with disciplined fire and movement techniques that indicated formal military training. Their equipment included advanced optical sights and communication systems that allowed coordinated attacks against specific defensive positions. The base's ammunition supplies were being consumed at rates that exceeded peacetime planning assumptions. Elena's supply management experience allowed her to calculate consumption patterns and predict when critical shortages would begin affecting defensive effectiveness. Corporal Chen's frustration was evident as he struggled to engage targets at ranges that challenged his equipment and training. His designated marksman rifle was effective at intermediate distances, but the enemy positions required precision shooting capabilities that exceeded standard infantry training. Elena could clearly identify specific enemy fighters through her advanced optics, but her official assignment to defensive support, rather than active engagement, meant she was expected to observe and report, rather than engage targets independently. The morning progressed with sustained contact that gradually revealed the enemy's tactical objective. Rather than attempting to overrun the base through direct assault, they were conducting a siege designed to isolate the installation and force surrender through attrition. Major Walsh coordinated the defensive response from the base command center, but communications with higher headquarters remained intermittent due to enemy jamming and atmospheric interference. The base was effectively isolated and dependent on its internal resources for survival. Lieutenant Morrison moved between defensive positions, coordinating ammunition resupply, and assessing tactical requirements. Her logistics background proved valuable as she managed the complex challenge of maintaining defensive capabilities while conserving limited resources. The enemy's mortar fire demonstrated sophisticated targeting that suggested detailed knowledge of the base's layout and defensive positions. Their rounds impacted critical infrastructure with precision that spoke of extensive reconnaissance and professional military planning. Elena's position provided excellent observation of enemy activities, but her role as supply personnel limited her ability to engage targets despite her superior marksmanship capabilities. She documented enemy positions and movement patterns while providing supporting fire when directly engaged. The afternoon brought no relief from the sustained assault, as enemy positions maintained coordinated pressure against the base's defensive perimeter. Storm clouds continued to build overhead, reducing visibility and preventing air support operations. Staff Sergeant Rivera's ammunition requests became increasingly urgent as his squad's aggressive response tactics depleted their basic load. Elena coordinated resupply operations while observing the tactical situation developing across the defensive perimeter. The enemy demonstrated remarkable patience and fire discipline, maintaining consistent pressure without exposing themselves to effective counterattack. Their positions were well chosen and professionally prepared, indicating extensive advanced planning and reconnaissance. Elena's ballistics expertise allowed her to identify weapon types, and estimate ranges based on sound signatures and muzzle flash characteristics. Her analysis revealed that enemy forces possessed advanced military equipment including precision rifles and sophisticated optical systems. Corporal Chen appeared at Elena's position during a brief lull in the firefight, his expression showing the strain of sustained combat against a tactically superior opponent. His designated marksman role was being challenged by engagement ranges that exceeded his training and equipment capabilities. "Vasquez, I can see targets, but I can't hit them consistently at these ranges," Chen admitted, his voice reflecting professional frustration rather than personal fear. "The wind is playing hell with my shots, and I'm burning through ammunition without achieving effective results." Elena understood Chen's tactical problem from both a supply management and marksmanship perspective. The enemy had positioned themselves at ranges that challenged standard infantry weapons while remaining within effective range of their own precision systems. The base's water and power systems remained functional despite enemy attempts to target critical infrastructure, but ammunition consumption continued at unsustainable rates. Elena's supply calculations indicated that defensive capabilities would be significantly degraded within hours unless the tactical situation changed. Major Walsh appeared at Elena's position as evening approached, her expression showing the accumulated stress of commanding a defensive operation that was gradually failing despite the courage and professionalism of her personnel. "Vasquez, I need your assessment of our ammunition situation," Walsh said, crouching behind the concrete barrier. "Can we maintain current defensive operations through the night?" Elena had been tracking ammunition expenditure throughout the day, applying her supply management expertise to calculate consumption rates and predict shortages. Her analysis painted a grim picture of the base's long-term defensive prospects. "Ma'am, at current consumption rates, we'll be critically low on rifle ammunition within 6 hours," Elena reported. "Mortar rounds and machine gun ammunition will last longer, but small arms ammunition is being consumed faster than peacetime planning projected." Walsh studied the darkening sky where storm clouds continued to build, preventing any possibility of air support or medical evacuation. The base was isolated and dependent on internal resources that were being steadily depleted. The enemy maintained their disciplined siege throughout the evening, applying consistent pressure without exposing themselves to effective counterattack. Their professional approach suggested they understood the base's logistical limitations and were prepared to maintain the assault until defensive capabilities collapsed. Elena's position remained active as enemy sniper fire targeted specific defensive positions with precision that demonstrated advanced marksmanship capabilities. Several base personnel had been wounded by long-range shots that indicated professional military training. Rivera's squad continued their aggressive response tactics, but ammunition shortages were beginning to affect their ability to maintain suppressive fire. Elena coordinated emergency resupply while noting the tactical implications of reduced defensive firepower. The communication system brought reports of casualties and equipment failures as the sustained combat took its toll on personnel and material. Medical facilities were treating wounded soldiers while engineering teams worked to maintain critical systems under fire. Lieutenant Morrison coordinated with Elena to establish ammunition distribution priorities that would maintain defensive effectiveness as long as possible. Their combined logistics and tactical experience provided insights that pure combat specialists might have missed. The enemy's night vision capabilities became evident as darkness fell, allowing them to maintain accurate fire while base personnel struggled with reduced visibility. Their equipment advantage was becoming a decisive factor in the tactical balance. Elena's M24 rifle remained ready for engagement, but her official role continued to limit her tactical employment, despite her superior capabilities. She maintained observation duties while providing supporting fire when directly engaged by enemy positions. The base's perimeter lighting systems had been partially damaged by mortar fire, creating areas of darkness that favored enemy infiltration attempts. Security patrols reported movement in areas that suggested the enemy was preparing for closer engagement. Major Walsh's tactical decisions reflected the challenging balance between aggressive defense and resource conservation. The base needed to maintain defensive effectiveness while preserving ammunition for the extended siege that seemed increasingly likely. Corporal Chen returned to Elena's position near midnight, his equipment showing the wear of sustained combat and his expression reflecting the exhaustion that was affecting all personnel. His ammunition load had been reduced to emergency reserves. Elena had been monitoring enemy activities throughout the evening, noting patterns of movement and engagement that suggested professional military coordination. Her marksmanship training allowed her to identify specific threats that posed the greatest danger to defensive positions. The night brought new challenges, as enemy forces demonstrated their ability to maintain coordinated operations in reduced visibility conditions. Their use of advanced night vision and communication equipment created tactical advantages that the base struggled to counter. Elena's supply depot had been secured and protected throughout the day, but ammunition distribution requirements were creating logistical challenges that tested her organizational abilities. She coordinated with Lieutenant Morrison to prioritize critical needs while maintaining overall defensive capabilities. The sustained firefight had revealed significant gaps between peacetime training scenarios and the reality of coordinated defensive operations. Many soldiers were experiencing their first sustained combat engagement against a professionally trained and equipped opponent. Staff Sergeant Rivera's leadership during the crisis had been exemplary, but his tactical approach of aggressive, suppressive fire was consuming ammunition at rates that threatened long-term defensive sustainability. Elena's supply expertise provided crucial insights into the tactical implications of resource limitations. The enemy's siege tactics demonstrated sophisticated understanding of logistical warfare and psychological pressure. Their ability to maintain coordinated operations while conserving resources suggested extensive planning and professional military experience. Elena's observation skills had documented enemy positions, movement patterns, and tactical capabilities throughout the engagement. Her detailed intelligence could prove valuable for counterattack planning if the tactical situation improved. The base command center coordinated defensive operations while managing communications challenges created by enemy jamming and atmospheric interference. Major Walsh's leadership maintained unit cohesion despite the increasingly difficult tactical situation. Lieutenant Morrison's logistics coordination ensured that ammunition and medical supplies reached defensive positions despite enemy fire and movement restrictions. Her administrative experience proved valuable for managing complex resource allocation under combat conditions. Elena's position provided excellent overwatch of enemy activities, but institutional limitations on her tactical employment meant that her advanced marksmanship capabilities remained underutilized, despite their potential tactical value. The night progressed with continued enemy pressure that gradually revealed their strategic objective. Rather than seeking immediate tactical victory, they appeared focused on degrading defensive capabilities through sustained attrition. Corporal Chen's struggles with long-range engagement reflected broader challenges facing the defensive forces. Enemy positions required precision shooting capabilities that exceeded standard infantry training and equipment specifications. Elena monitored ammunition consumption patterns while maintaining her defensive responsibilities, noting that current expenditure rates would create critical shortages well before external reinforcement could be expected. The enemy demonstrated remarkable fire discipline throughout the night, engaging specific targets rather than wasting ammunition on suppressive fire. Their professional approach suggested formal military training and extensive combat experience. Major Walsh's defensive coordination maintained unit effectiveness despite resource limitations and equipment challenges. Her leadership preserved morale while managing the tactical realities of an increasingly difficult situation. The sustained siege created psychological pressure that tested personnel endurance and unit cohesion. Elena's methodical approach to supply management provided stability and confidence that helped maintain overall defensive effectiveness. Elena's M24 rifle represented capabilities that could significantly impact the tactical balance, but institutional assumptions about supply personnel continued to limit her employment despite the evolving crisis. The approaching dawn would bring new challenges as enemy forces prepared to exploit their tactical advantages and resource superiority. Elena's expertise in both supply management and precision marksmanship positioned her uniquely to influence the outcome, but only if institutional barriers could be overcome by tactical necessity. Dawn broke over forward operating base Sentinel with the crimson hues of another day under siege. Elena had spent the night coordinating ammunition distribution while monitoring enemy movements through her scope, her eyes burning from exhaustion but her mind sharp with tactical awareness. The enemy positions remained active throughout the darkness, maintaining pressure that had worn down the base's defensive capabilities to critical levels. Major Walsh emerged from the command bunker at first light, her uniform dusty and her expression carrying the weight of command decisions that had grown increasingly desperate throughout the night. The base's ammunition reserves had dropped to emergency levels, medical supplies were running low, and several defensive positions had been abandoned due to casualties and equipment failures. Elena watched through her M24 scope as enemy snipers adjusted their positions in response to the changing light conditions. Their movements demonstrated professional fieldcraft that confirmed her assessment of their advanced training and experience. She had identified at least 3 separate sniper teams occupying positions that dominated key areas of the base's defensive perimeter. The communication system crackled with Major Walsh's voice as she addressed the entire base population with an update that everyone had been dreading. All personnel, this is actual. Air support remains unavailable due to weather conditions. Reinforcement timeline is unknown due to enemy activity throughout the region. We are operating under siege conditions indefinitely. Lieutenant Morrison appeared at Elena's position carrying an ammunition status report that confirmed the supply situation had reached crisis levels. Her expression reflected the professional concern of someone who understood the mathematical certainty of their tactical predicament. Vasquez, we need to discuss ammunition priorities, Morrison said, crouching behind the concrete barrier that had become Elena's primary workspace. Current consumption rates mean we'll be down to emergency reserves within hours. We need to identify which positions are most critical for maintaining defensive integrity. Elena had been conducting similar calculations throughout the night, applying her supply management expertise to predict how long the base could maintain effective resistance. Her analysis painted a grim picture that required difficult decisions about resource allocation. Ma'am, the eastern perimeter positions are consuming ammunition at 3 times the normal rate because of the extended engagement ranges, Elena reported. But those same positions are preventing enemy infiltration of our most vulnerable sector. If we reduce their ammunition allocation, we risk losing perimeter integrity. Morrison studied Elena's detailed consumption analysis while considering the tactical implications of every decision. The executive officer's logistics background gave her appreciation for Elena's expertise, but the military hierarchy still limited Elena's official role in tactical planning. The enemy had demonstrated remarkable patience throughout the siege, maintaining consistent pressure without exposing themselves to effective counterattack. Their professional approach suggested they understood the base's logistical vulnerabilities and were prepared to maintain the assault until defensive capabilities collapsed entirely. Staff Sergeant Rivera's voice echoed across the northern defensive line as he positioned his remaining squad members for what appeared to be preparations for enemy ground assault. His ammunition situation had become critical, forcing him to rely on single-shot engagement techniques rather than the suppressive fire tactics that had characterized his previous operations. Elena observed enemy reconnaissance activities that suggested they were preparing for a coordinated assault designed to exploit the base's depleted defensive capabilities. Enemy spotters had been systematically mapping the defensive positions and identifying areas where reduced ammunition had created tactical vulnerabilities. Corporal Chen approached Elena's position carrying his designated marksman rifle and wearing an expression that combined exhaustion with professional frustration. His ammunition load had been reduced to less than 60 rounds, forcing him to be extremely selective about target engagement. Vasquez, I need to ask you something, Chen said quietly, glancing around to ensure their conversation remained private. You've been tracking enemy movements all night through that scope. Have you identified any high-value targets that could change our tactical situation? Elena had indeed been conducting detailed surveillance of enemy positions, using her advanced marksmanship training to identify leadership elements and key weapon systems. Her observations had revealed several potential targets whose elimination could significantly disrupt enemy coordination. Chen, I've identified what appears to be the enemy command element occupying a position on the eastern ridge, Elena replied, adjusting her scope to show Chen the specific location. Range is approximately 420 yards. The position includes what looks like radio equipment and multiple personnel directing fire from other positions. Chen studied the target area through his own optics, but Elena could see him struggling with the range and environmental conditions that made precise engagement extremely challenging for his equipment and training level. That's beyond my effective range with this rifle and ammunition, Chen admitted with professional honesty. The wind conditions and distance would make it a low-probability shot even under ideal circumstances. Elena understood Chen's tactical problem because she had been monitoring the same environmental factors that affected long-range shooting throughout the engagement. Wind speed, humidity, and atmospheric pressure all influenced bullet trajectory in ways that required advanced ballistics knowledge to compensate effectively. The enemy command position represented a critical target whose elimination could disrupt their coordinated siege operations. Elena's M24 rifle was certainly capable of making the shot, and her training had prepared her for exactly this type of precision engagement under adverse conditions. Major Walsh appeared at Elena's position carrying radio equipment and map overlays that showed the base's deteriorating tactical situation. Her expression reflected the accumulated stress of commanding a defensive operation that was gradually failing, despite the courage and professionalism of her personnel. Vasquez, I need your assessment of enemy positions and capabilities, Walsh said, spreading tactical maps on the concrete surface behind the protective barrier. Intelligence reports suggest enemy reinforcements may be approaching from the west. We need to understand their current disposition before making defensive adjustments. Elena had been conducting systematic observation of enemy activities throughout the siege, documenting positions, movement patterns, and equipment capabilities with the methodical precision that characterized her approach to all professional responsibilities. Ma'am, enemy forces have established overlapping fields of fire from positions on 3 ridgelines, Elena reported, using her scope to point out specific locations. Their command element appears to be located here on the eastern ridge, approximately 420 yards from our position. Elimination of that position could significantly disrupt their coordination. Walsh studied the target area through binoculars while considering the tactical implications of Elena's assessment. The Major's combat experience was primarily in mobile operations rather than static defensive engagements, but she understood the importance of disrupting enemy command and control. Do we have personnel capable of engaging that target effectively? Walsh asked, looking around at the available defensive positions and their current ammunition status. Elena felt her heart rate increase, as she realized this might finally be the opportunity she had been preparing for throughout her military career. The institutional barriers that had kept her relegated to supply duties were becoming irrelevant in the face of tactical necessity. Ma'am, I believe I could make that shot, Elena said quietly, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was suggesting. My rifle is capable of the range, I have match-grade ammunition, and I've been monitoring wind conditions throughout the engagement. Walsh looked surprised by Elena's offer, her expression reflecting the common assumption that supply specialists lacked the tactical training for complex combat operations, but the desperate nature of their situation was forcing reconsideration of traditional role limitations. Vasquez, what's your marksmanship training background? Walsh asked, studying Elena with renewed interest. Elena felt the familiar tension between professional humility and honest assessment of her capabilities. This was the moment she had been waiting for throughout her assignment to Forward Operating Base Sentinel. Ma'am, I graduated second in my sniper school class and maintained expert marksmanship ratings throughout my career, Elena replied. I've been conducting advanced ballistics research and long-range shooting practice during off-duty hours for the past 3 years. Walsh's expression shifted from surprise to intense interest as she processed Elena's qualifications. The tactical situation had reached the point where conventional approaches were failing and desperate measures were becoming necessary options. Lieutenant Morrison had been listening to the conversation with growing understanding of Elena's potential contribution to their tactical situation. Her support for Elena's marksmanship training program suddenly took on immediate practical significance. Major, I've observed Sergeant Vasquez's marksmanship capabilities during training exercises, Morrison interjected. Her technical knowledge and shooting skills are significantly above standard infantry levels. She may be our best option for engaging high-value targets at extended range. The weight of command decision was visible in Major Walsh's expression as she considered Elena's offer against the backdrop of their deteriorating tactical situation. Ammunition shortages, casualty reports, and the prospect of enemy reinforcement all contributed to a scenario where unconventional approaches were becoming necessary. Elena's M24 rifle represented the base's most capable precision weapon system, and her training provided the technical expertise needed for complex long-range engagements. The combination of superior equipment and advanced marksmanship training could potentially address tactical problems that conventional infantry weapons couldn't solve. The enemy command position continued to coordinate activities across the siege perimeter, directing mortar fire and small arms engagement with professional efficiency. Eliminating that coordination could create tactical opportunities for the base's defensive forces to regain initiative. Elena had been studying the target area throughout their conversation, noting wind conditions, atmospheric factors, and target movement patterns that would influence shot placement. Her ballistics training automatically processed environmental data that most soldiers never considered. "All right, Vasquez," Walsh said finally. "You get one shot. If you can eliminate that command position, it might give us the tactical advantage we need to break this siege. But understand that if you miss, you'll have revealed our most capable sniper position to enemy counter-snipers." Elena felt a surge of adrenaline, mixed with professional focus, as she accepted the responsibility that came with tactical employment of her specialized skills. This was the moment that would either validate years of training and preparation, or demonstrate the limitations of theoretical expertise under actual combat conditions. She began her shooting preparation with the methodical precision that had characterized her approach to marksmanship throughout her military career. Environmental factors, equipment configuration, and target analysis all required systematic evaluation before attempting such a critical shot. Wind speed and direction were Elena's primary concerns, as she studied atmospheric conditions through her scope and by observing environmental indicators around the target area. The morning air carried variable currents that created complex ballistics challenges requiring advanced compensation techniques. Her M24 rifle had been zeroed for match-grade ammunition at specific atmospheric conditions, but the current environment required adjustments based on temperature, humidity, and air density variations. Elena's ballistics training allowed her to calculate compensation factors that less experienced shooters would struggle to determine. The target area included multiple personnel, but Elena needed to identify the specific individual whose elimination would have maximum tactical impact. Her observation skills allowed her to recognize leadership indicators and communication equipment that marked high-value targets. Corporal Chen positioned himself to provide security and observation support for Elena's engagement, his own rifle ready to engage any enemy response to her shot. His respect for Elena's expertise had grown throughout their interactions, and he understood the critical importance of this engagement. Elena's breathing technique followed the pattern she had practiced thousands of times during training exercises and competitive shooting events. Consistent respiratory control was essential for precision shooting, especially at extended ranges where small errors could result in complete target misses. The rifle's trigger had been adjusted to Elena's specifications, providing the crisp break that allowed precise shot timing. Her shooting position utilized the concrete barrier for stable support, while maintaining concealment from enemy observation. Major Walsh and Lieutenant Morrison maintained observation through binoculars, ready to assess the results of Elena's shot and coordinate follow-up actions based on the tactical impact. The success or failure of this engagement could determine the overall outcome of the siege. Elena's scope picture showed the target area in sharp detail, revealing enemy personnel and equipment arrangements that confirmed her assessment of their command function. The primary target was clearly identifiable as a leadership figure directing activities across multiple positions. Range estimation was critical for proper ballistics compensation, and Elena used multiple techniques to verify the distance to target. Her training had emphasized the importance of accurate range determination for successful long-range engagements. Atmospheric conditions remained challenging but stable enough for precision shooting if proper compensation techniques were applied. Elena's understanding of ballistics allowed her to calculate corrections for wind drift, bullet drop, and atmospheric density effects. The enemy command position showed no indication that they had detected Elena's preparation for engagement. Their focus remained on coordinating siege operations rather than counter-sniper security, providing tactical advantage for Elena's shot placement. Elena's final equipment check confirmed that her rifle, optics, and ammunition were all functioning perfectly. Years of meticulous maintenance and preparation had ensured that her weapon system would perform reliably under the most demanding circumstances. The moment of engagement arrived as Elena aligned her scope crosshairs on the target while applying ballistics compensation for environmental factors. Her breathing patterns settled into the rhythm that preceded shot execution, and her finger found the familiar position on the rifle's trigger. The shot broke cleanly with Elena's natural respiratory pause, sending the 168-grain match bullet across 420 yards of desert air toward its intended target. The rifle's recoil was absorbed by Elena's stable shooting position, allowing her to maintain scope picture for impact observation. Through her scope, Elena watched the bullet impact exactly where she had aimed, striking the enemy commander's center mass and immediately disrupting the coordinated activities that had been directed from that position. The tactical effect was immediate and dramatic. Enemy communication activities ceased abruptly as personnel in the command position responded to the elimination of their leadership element. The coordinated fire that had characterized their siege operations became disorganized and ineffective as subordinate positions lost tactical direction. Major Walsh confirmed the target elimination through her binoculars, while immediately beginning coordination for follow-up actions designed to exploit the tactical advantage Elena's shot had created. The base's defensive forces were ready to capitalize on the disruption of enemy command and control. Elena maintained her position and prepared for additional precision engagements as enemy forces attempted to re-establish coordination and respond to the elimination of their command element. Her single shot had achieved tactical results that conventional suppressive fire couldn't accomplish. The immediate enemy response to Elena's shot revealed the extent to which their operations had depended on centralized coordination. Without effective command and control, individual enemy positions began operating independently rather than as part of a coordinated siege operation. Lieutenant Morrison coordinated ammunition resupply to positions that could exploit the tactical opportunity Elena's engagement had created. The base's defensive capabilities suddenly seemed more effective as enemy pressure became disorganized and reactive rather than coordinated and proactive. Corporal Chen provided security for Elena's position while expressing amazement at the precision and tactical impact of her shot. His respect for her marksmanship capabilities had been completely validated by the practical results achieved under actual combat conditions. Elena reloaded her rifle and began scanning for additional high-value targets whose elimination could further disrupt enemy operations. Her success with the first engagement had demonstrated the tactical value of precision shooting and established her credibility as a combat asset. The enemy's response to the loss of their command element included attempts to establish alternative coordination methods, but their activities lacked the professional efficiency that had characterized their siege operations throughout the previous day and night. Staff Sergeant Rivera's position reported reduced enemy pressure as the coordinated fire that had pinned down his squad became sporadic and poorly directed. The tactical advantage Elena's shot had created was being felt across the entire defensive perimeter. Major Walsh's tactical assessment indicated that enemy morale and coordination had been significantly degraded by the elimination of their command element. The psychological impact of precise long-range engagement had been as important as the practical disruption of their leadership structure. Elena identified secondary targets whose elimination could prevent enemy attempts to re-establish effective coordination. Her systematic approach to target analysis allowed her to prioritize engagements based on their potential tactical impact. The base's communication system carried reports of reduced enemy activity and improved defensive effectiveness as Elena's tactical contribution began influencing the overall siege situation. Personnel who had been pinned down by accurate enemy fire were able to maneuver and reposition. Elena's second engagement targeted an enemy sniper position that had been causing casualties among the base's defensive forces throughout the siege. Her precision shot eliminated the threat and further demonstrated the tactical value of advanced marksmanship capabilities. The cumulative effect of Elena's precision engagements was transformation of the tactical balance from defensive desperation to offensive opportunity. Enemy forces found themselves responding to threats rather than maintaining coordinated pressure against the base's positions. Lieutenant Morrison coordinated with Elena to identify additional targets whose elimination would maximize the tactical advantage her marksmanship had created. Their combined logistics and tactical expertise provided insights that enhanced the effectiveness of precision shooting operations. Elena's third engagement eliminated an enemy machine gun position that had been suppressing movement across a critical area of the base's defensive perimeter. The precision of her shot placement allowed friendly forces to advance and re-establish control over previously contested areas. Major Walsh authorized a limited counterattack designed to exploit the tactical confusion Elena's engagements had created among enemy forces. The base's personnel advanced from their defensive positions for the first time since the siege began. Elena provided overwatch for the advancing friendly forces, her rifle ready to engage any enemy positions that attempted to interfere with the tactical maneuver. Her ability to deliver precision fire at extended ranges gave the counterattack tactical advantages that conventional weapons couldn't provide. The enemy's attempt to re-establish coordinated resistance failed, as Elena's continued precision engagements eliminated key personnel and weapon systems. Their professional siege operation deteriorated into disorganized retreat as tactical cohesion collapsed. Corporal Chen advanced with the counterattack force while maintaining communication with Elena's position for precision fire support. Their cooperation demonstrated how advanced marksmanship capabilities could enhance conventional infantry operations when properly integrated. Elena's fourth engagement targeted enemy personnel attempting to organize a withdrawal, further disrupting their ability to conduct organized military operations. Her systematic elimination of leadership elements prevented effective tactical coordinations. The base's medical personnel reported that enemy sniper fire had ceased entirely as Elena's counter-sniper operations eliminated the threats that had been causing casualties throughout the siege. Her precision engagements had neutralized enemy capabilities that conventional weapons couldn't address. Major Walsh's tactical assessment indicated that enemy forces were attempting to disengage and withdraw from their siege positions. Elena's marksmanship had transformed a defensive crisis into a tactical victory that exceeded anyone's expectations. Elena maintained her overwatch position as friendly forces advanced to secure the areas that had been controlled by enemy positions throughout the siege. Her rifle remained ready to engage any enemy attempts to interfere with the tactical success her shooting had enabled. The communication system carried reports of enemy withdrawal from positions around the base's perimeter as their siege operation collapsed under the pressure of Elena's precision engagements and the counterattack they had enabled. Lieutenant Morrison coordinated intelligence collection from the abandoned enemy positions, revealing the extent of their preparation and the professional nature of their siege operation. Elena's tactical contribution had defeated a significantly superior enemy force through precision rather than firepower. Elena's ammunition consumption during her precision engagements had been minimal compared to the massive expenditure that conventional defensive operations had required throughout the siege. Her efficiency demonstrated the tactical value of marksmanship expertise. Staff Sergeant Rivera approached Elena's position as the tactical situation stabilized, his expression showing a combination of amazement and professional respect that represented a complete transformation of his previous attitudes toward her capabilities. "Vasquez, I owe you more than an apology," Rivera said, his voice carrying genuine humility. "Your shooting just saved this entire base." "I have never seen marksmanship like that under actual combat conditions." Elena accepted Rivera's acknowledgement with the professional modesty that had characterized her response to recognition throughout her military career. Her focus remained on completing the mission rather than celebrating individual achievement. The base's defensive positions reported complete cessation of enemy contact, as the siege that had threatened to overwhelm their capabilities ended with the dramatic success of Elena's precision shooting operations. Major Walsh coordinated with higher headquarters to report the tactical situation and request support for securing the areas that had been contested throughout the siege. Elena's marksmanship had created tactical opportunities that exceeded the scope of base-level operations. Elena began cleaning and maintaining her M24 rifle with the same methodical precision she brought to all equipment care responsibilities. The weapon had performed flawlessly throughout the critical engagements, validating years of careful maintenance and preparation. Corporal Chen returned from the counterattack operations with enemy equipment and intelligence materials that confirmed the professional nature of the forces Elena's shooting had defeated. Her precision engagements had neutralized a threat that conventional tactics might not have been able to overcome. The medical report indicated 0 friendly casualties during the final phase of the siege, a remarkable achievement that reflected the effectiveness of Elena's precision fire support for advancing friendly forces. Lieutenant Morrison approached Elena's position carrying official documentation that would formalize recognition of her tactical contribution to the successful defense of forward operating base Sentinel. "Elena, your marksmanship probably saved dozens of lives and definitely saved this base," Morrison said. "Command is going to want a detailed after-action report on your engagements and tactical procedures." Elena nodded her understanding while continuing to process the transformation that had occurred in how her fellow soldiers viewed her capabilities and contributions. The institutional barriers that had limited her tactical employment had been permanently overcome by demonstrated excellence under the most demanding circumstances. The base's communication system carried Major Walsh's announcement that the siege had been successfully repelled and normal operations could resume. Elena's precision shooting had been the decisive factor in transforming defensive crisis into tactical victory. Staff Sergeant Rivera began coordinating his squad's return to normal patrol and security operations, but his interaction with Elena showed permanent change in his attitude toward her expertise and contributions. Professional respect had replaced dismissive condescension. Elena's shooting position was secured and her equipment properly maintained as the base returned to normal security posture. Her M24 rifle was cleaned and stored with the same careful attention to detail that had ensured its perfect performance during critical engagements. The intelligence materials recovered from abandoned enemy positions revealed that Elena's precision engagements had eliminated key leadership personnel whose tactical expertise had been essential for maintaining the professional siege operation. Major Walsh's tactical assessment credited Elena's marksmanship with achieving tactical results that significantly exceeded what conventional defensive operations could have accomplished with available resources and personnel. Elena returned to her supply depot responsibilities, but her role within the base's tactical operations had been permanently transformed by her demonstrated capabilities under actual combat conditions. She was no longer just a supply specialist who happened to be skilled at marksmanship. The base's personnel began approaching Elena with questions about advanced shooting techniques and ballistics principles, recognizing that her expertise represented capabilities that could enhance their own tactical effectiveness. Lieutenant Morrison finalized documentation recommending Elena for advanced tactical training and assignment to positions that would better utilize her demonstrated marksmanship capabilities. The siege had proven that institutional assumptions about roles and capabilities needed to be reconsidered. Elena's notebook of ballistics research and environmental observations had contributed directly to her success during the critical engagements, validating years of dedicated study and preparation that had previously been dismissed as excessive specialization. The base's training program would be enhanced by Elena's expertise in precision shooting and ballistics, providing all personnel with access to knowledge that could improve their tactical effectiveness in future operations. Elena's call sign evolved from a dismissive reference to supply duties into recognition of precision and reliability that had proven decisive under the most challenging circumstances. Her professional identity had been transformed by demonstrated excellence. The siege of forward operating base Sentinel had ended with complete tactical success, but the most significant transformation had been institutional recognition that excellence could emerge from unexpected sources when individuals were given opportunities to demonstrate their capabilities. Elena's story became part of the base's operational history as an example of how advanced technical knowledge and dedicated preparation could achieve tactical results that exceeded conventional expectations. Her precision shooting had literally saved the day. Major Walsh's final report on the siege operations emphasized the critical importance of Elena's marksmanship contribution and recommended policy changes to better identify and utilize specialized capabilities regardless of official job classifications. Elena continued her supply management duties with the same methodical precision that characterized all her professional activities, but her role within the base's tactical operations had been permanently expanded to include precision shooting and advanced marksmanship instruction. The transformation of Elena Vasquez from dismissed supply clerk to recognized tactical asset represented broader lessons about institutional assumptions, individual excellence, and the importance of recognizing capabilities wherever they existed within military organizations. Her precision shot had ended a 6-hour siege, but more importantly, it had demonstrated that dedication, preparation, and technical expertise could overcome institutional barriers and preconceived limitations when circumstances demanded excellence over convenience. The desert morning that had begun with siege and desperation ended with tactical victory and institutional transformation, all achieved through the precision shooting of a supply clerk whose capabilities had finally been recognized and properly utilized. Elena's legacy at Forward Operating Base Sentinel would endure as proof that excellence could emerge from any source when individuals were committed to mastery of their craft and organizations were willing to look beyond superficial assumptions about roles and capabilities. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. The weeks following the siege at Forward Operating Base Sentinel brought changes that Elena could never have anticipated during her years of methodical supply management and quiet dedication to marksmanship excellence. Her precision shooting had not only ended a tactical crisis but had fundamentally altered how the military viewed the relationship between specialized skills and official job classifications. Colonel James Harrison arrived at FOB Sentinel 3 days after the siege with a team of military investigators and training specialists, tasked with conducting a comprehensive analysis of Elena's tactical contribution. His reputation as an expert in unconventional warfare and specialized military applications preceded him, creating an atmosphere of professional anticipation throughout the base. Elena found herself summoned to the base conference room for what Major Walsh described as a strategic capabilities assessment. The room contained personnel she had never seen before, including specialists in advanced marksmanship training, tactical operations planning, and military human resources policy development. Colonel Harrison's first question cut directly to the heart of institutional assumptions that had shaped Elena's entire military career. "Sergeant Vasquez, help me understand how someone with your demonstrated capabilities ended up managing supply operations instead of serving in a specialized marksmanship role." Elena felt the familiar tension between professional diplomacy and honest assessment of systemic problems. Her response would influence not only her own career trajectory, but potentially affect policy decisions that could impact other soldiers with underutilized specialized skills. "Sir, my initial military occupational specialty assignment was based on standardized testing and personnel needs rather than comprehensive evaluation of all capabilities," Elena replied carefully. Subsequent requests for transfer to combat positions were denied based on the perceived value of my logistics expertise. Harrison's expression suggested he understood the broader implications of Elena's situation. The military's personnel management systems were designed for efficiency rather than optimal utilization of individual capabilities, creating situations where valuable skills remained undiscovered until crisis situations forced their recognition. The investigation team had reviewed Elena's complete military record, including her sniper school performance, marksmanship competition results, and the detailed ballistics research she had conducted during off-duty hours. Their analysis revealed a pattern of excellence that had been systematically overlooked by conventional career management approaches. Captain Rebecca Martinez, a specialist in advanced marksmanship training programs, presented data showing that Elena's precision shooting capabilities exceeded those of many soldiers serving in designated sniper positions. Her technical knowledge and practical skills represented resources that the military had failed to recognize and utilize effectively. The siege engagement analysis provided detailed documentation of Elena's tactical decision-making under extreme pressure. Her ability to identify high-value targets, calculate complex ballistics corrections, and execute precision shots while under enemy fire demonstrated capabilities that transcended traditional job classification boundaries. Lieutenant Colonel David Chen, a tactical operations specialist, reviewed Elena's systematic approach to target prioritization and engagement sequencing. Her methodical elimination of enemy command and control elements had achieved strategic results that conventional suppressive fire operations could not have accomplished with available resources. Elena's detailed after-action report revealed the extent of preparation and technical knowledge that had contributed to her success during the critical engagements. Years of dedicated study, practice, and equipment maintenance had created capabilities that were immediately available when tactical necessity finally overcame institutional barriers. The investigation team's preliminary findings indicated that Elena's situation represented broader systemic issues within military personnel management that prevented optimal utilization of specialized capabilities. Their recommendations would influence policy changes affecting thousands of service members whose skills might be similarly underutilized. Major Walsh participated in the assessment process as Elena's commanding officer, providing insights into her daily performance and professional characteristics that had been evident long before the siege crisis. Her testimony emphasized Elena's reliability, technical competence, and dedication to excellence in all assigned duties. Staff Sergeant Rivera's contribution to the investigation represented a significant transformation in his understanding of how specialized capabilities could enhance conventional military operations. His previous dismissive attitude toward Elena's technical approach had been completely replaced by professional respect and advocacy for better recognition of diverse skill sets. Corporal Chen provided detailed testimony about Elena's informal mentoring and technical instruction, demonstrating how her expertise had been quietly shared despite official limitations on her tactical employment. His improved marksmanship performance served as evidence of Elena's instructional capabilities. The base personnel interviewed during the investigation consistently described Elena as exceptionally competent in her assigned duties, while expressing surprise at learning about her advanced marksmanship capabilities. Their responses revealed how institutional assumptions had prevented recognition of skills that were outside official job classifications. Elena's comprehensive ballistics research documentation impressed the investigation team as evidence of intellectual curiosity and technical dedication that exceeded normal professional requirements. Her personal investment in advanced knowledge demonstrated the kind of professional commitment that military organizations needed to identify and cultivate. The psychological evaluation component of the investigation assessed Elena's decision-making processes, stress management capabilities, and leadership potential under extreme circumstances. Her performance during the siege had demonstrated characteristics that traditional evaluation methods had failed to identify or measure effectively. Colonel Harrison's final interview with Elena focused on her career aspirations and recommendations for military personnel policy improvements. Her responses provided insights that could influence institutional changes, affecting how the military identified, developed, and utilized specialized capabilities. Elena's suggestions for improving marksmanship training programs throughout the military reflected her understanding of both technical requirements and practical implementation challenges. Her recommendations balanced individual skill development with unit-level tactical effectiveness in ways that pure specialists or generalists might not have considered. The investigation team's technical analysis of Elena's shooting performance during the siege provided quantitative data supporting qualitative observations about her exceptional capabilities. Ballistics reconstructions confirmed the precision and technical expertise required for her successful engagements under challenging environmental conditions. Elena's equipment modifications and maintenance procedures demonstrated technical knowledge that exceeded standard military training requirements. Her personal investment in weapon and ammunition optimization had created performance advantages that contributed directly to tactical success. The cost-benefit analysis conducted by the investigation team revealed that Elena's precision shooting had achieved tactical results with minimal ammunition expenditure compared to conventional suppressive fire operations. Her efficiency demonstrated economic advantages of specialized capabilities when properly employed. Military training specialists on the investigation team evaluated Elena's potential as an instructor and curriculum developer for advanced marksmanship programs. Her combination of technical expertise, practical experience, and communication skills suggested capabilities that could benefit large numbers of military personnel. The investigation's findings regarding institutional barriers to capability recognition extended beyond Elena's specific situation to encompass broader military personnel management challenges. Their recommendations would influence policy changes affecting career development and assignment procedures throughout the armed forces. Elena's case study became a focal point for discussions about military transformation and the need for more flexible approaches to talent recognition and utilization. Her story demonstrated how rigid institutional structures could prevent optimal use of available human resources. The siege analysis revealed that Elena's tactical contribution had prevented what could have been a significant strategic defeat, with implications extending far beyond forward operating base Sentinel. Her precision shooting had achieved results that conventional approaches might not have been able to accomplish. Colonel Harrison's team conducted comparative studies of similar situations, where specialized capabilities had been underutilized due to institutional assumptions and procedural limitations. Their research identified patterns suggesting that Elena's experience was representative of broader systemic problems. The investigation process had transformed Elena from an individual case study into a catalyst for institutional change that could affect thousands of military personnel whose capabilities might be similarly under-recognized. Her siege performance had become the foundation for policy recommendations with strategic implications. Elena's detailed technical documentation provided the investigation team with unprecedented insights into the relationship between theoretical knowledge and practical application under extreme circumstances. Her ballistics research had directly contributed to tactical success in ways that validated the importance of advanced technical education. The psychological evaluation results indicated that Elena possessed leadership characteristics and decision-making capabilities that traditional assessment methods had failed to identify. Her performance under pressure demonstrated potential that extended far beyond marksmanship expertise. Military education specialists reviewed Elena's informal training and mentoring activities, recognizing capabilities that could be developed into formal instructional roles. Her ability to communicate complex technical concepts in practical terms suggested natural teaching abilities that the military could utilize more effectively. The investigation team's recommendations included specific policy changes designed to identify and develop specialized capabilities regardless of official job classifications. Elena's case had demonstrated the strategic value of recognizing excellence wherever it existed within military organizations. Elena's ballistics research was evaluated for potential incorporation into official military training curricula and technical manuals. Her work represented practical knowledge that could enhance the effectiveness of military personnel throughout the armed forces. The cost analysis conducted during the investigation revealed that Elena's precision shooting had achieved tactical results with resource efficiency that exceeded conventional operations by significant margins. Her approach demonstrated economic advantages of specialized capabilities when properly trained and equipped. Colonel Harrison's final report emphasized that Elena's story represented both individual excellence and institutional learning opportunities that could benefit the entire military organization. Her transformation from supply clerk to tactical asset demonstrated the importance of recognizing and developing human potential regardless of initial assignments. The investigation process had evolved Elena's role from subject to collaborator as her insights contributed to policy development and training program design. Her experience provided practical perspectives that theoretical approaches to military transformation often lacked. Elena's formal recognition through commendations and medal recommendations represented institutional acknowledgement of capabilities that had been overlooked for years. Her awards validated not only her individual achievements, but also the importance of looking beyond traditional assumptions about roles and potential. The training program development that grew out of Elena's case would provide opportunities for other military personnel to develop and demonstrate specialized capabilities that might otherwise remain unrecognized. Her story had become the foundation for systemic improvements in talent recognition and utilization. Elena's assignment to advanced training in specialized operations represented the culmination of her professional journey from dismissed supply clerk to recognized expert. Her new role would allow her to contribute capabilities that had been developed through years of dedicated preparation and study. The broader implications of Elena's story extended beyond individual career success to encompass fundamental questions about how military organizations could better identify, develop, and utilize the diverse capabilities of their personnel. Her siege performance had demonstrated the strategic value of recognizing excellence in all its forms. The transformation of Elena Vasquez from undervalued supply specialist to tactical asset represented lessons that extended far beyond military applications. Her story demonstrated how institutional assumptions could prevent recognition of capabilities until crisis situations forced reevaluation of traditional approaches to talent management. Her precision shot that ended the siege had been the culmination of years of preparation, dedication, and technical study that had been dismissed as irrelevant specialization. The crisis had revealed that what appeared to be excessive attention to detail was actually preparation for decisive contribution when circumstances demanded excellence over convenience. Elena's legacy at Forward Operating Base Sentinel and throughout the military would endure as proof that individual commitment to mastery could overcome institutional barriers when combined with opportunities to demonstrate capabilities. Her story showed that excellence could emerge from any source when dedication met opportunity. The investigation team's work had transformed one soldier's exceptional performance into institutional learning that could benefit countless others whose capabilities might be similarly under-recognized. Elena's siege heroics had become the foundation for military transformation that honored both individual excellence and organizational effectiveness. Her journey from supply depot to tactical recognition represented the kind of institutional evolution that occurred when organizations were willing to learn from experience and adapt their approaches to better utilize available human resources. Elena's story had become a catalyst for positive change that extended far beyond her individual achievements. The precision shot that ended a 6-hour siege had been the product of years of dedicated preparation, meeting a moment of tactical necessity. Elena's transformation from dismissed clerk to recognized expert demonstrated that excellence, properly prepared and given opportunity, could achieve results that exceeded all conventional expectations and assumptions. Just click and check them out.